Greetings, 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 peace, love, harmony, and light. This is Chief Kalanago with another video. Once again, you know I'm always about bringing information, and I'm always thankful. I'm always grateful, always showing my appreciation. And I just want to take time, before I get into this by honoring and acknowledging the great spirit, the universal source, the universal mind. I also would like to give thanks to my ancestors, each and every one of them. Let them know that I appreciate them because they all are my spiritual parents. And when you honor your mother and fathers, your days shall be longer. So I always walk in honor, and my goal and my duty is to make them proud of me. So with that being said, I give thanks. All right, I'm going to talk to you about a few things in this build. Some of the information, some of you may have heard of it. Some of you, this is all going to be brand new to you. But once again, I like to break things down, in its common denominator so that a child could have comprehension as to what's happening in the world and what's happening around them. Once again, we're living in a time of enlightenment. We are living in the time of knowing. And anybody who so chooses to remain in ignorance, then that's your fault. At some point, it will become stupidity. Okay? So please, do your research, do your own due diligence. Don't take my word for anything because I have done my own research. I have done my own due diligence, and that's why I'm able to speak and articulate the things that I speak of. Okay, so as we know, we are still in this so-called, pandemic phase of what's called the corona. Now, we already know what corona means. I'm certainly sure if you haven't heard it from me, you have heard it from many other people. All right, so and I took some notes. So if you hear some people shuffling, I made notes, to cover a few key points. All right, now the corona effect in the UK has been downgraded to a low risk as of March 19th, 2020. All right. So I'm going to share my screen as I go along to, again, just solidify the things that I speak of so that you will have a point of reference. Also, what I'm going to do is in the link below the video, I'm going to put all those links that I'm going to be covering or the topics that I'm going to be covering in this build. So let me share my screen. And here we go. Okay, so as I said, the corona effect in the UK has been downgraded to a low risk as of March 19th, 2020. So if in the UK, the corona effect has been downgraded to a low risk, why do they still have us here in the United States in this state of hysteria? All right, so you have to know what this is really all about. Okay, so here we go. COVID-19 is now considered a high consequence infectious disease, but it is now still vital to observe, okay, the lockdown, all right? And that was on Thursday, March 26th. It says what the UK government, let me see if I could kind of like make that a little bigger, because sometimes people are looking at this on their cell phones and they can't read the information because it's too small. Okay, so I just blew that up. All right, so here we go. The UK no longer, or the UK government no longer classifies coronavirus as a high consequence infectious disease. All right, but this doesn't mean it's safe to resume normal life quite yet. Okay, so it is not that of a serious issue now in the UK. All right, so I assume or I presume that the US is going to follow suit. All right, because they know the world is watching. I mean, they can't keep playing the games. All right, thinking they're literally talking to everybody's blind. Once again, this is the age of awareness, the age of knowing. For those of you who don't know, which I've also mentioned before, that all this corona talk is literally coded language. All right, coded language. By now, you should know that corona means the crown. Okay, it means the crown. In Latin, it means golden crown. In Spanish, it means the crown. And in regards to birthing terms, in terms of birthing, like a mother give birth, it refers to the crown of the child's head. We all have a crown. We were all born with what's called a crown chakra. So that is the corona, okay? Another example of that was when the allegorical Jesus, the child, was born. And I always like to speak of the Bible because I want you to know that the Bible is not what you think it is, okay? It's not what you think it is. It has nothing to do with the salvation of this mystical heaven or this magical heaven with this magical God. It has nothing to do with that, okay? Your salvation is right here on earth, and you create your own salvation, all right? But anyway, we're not going to turn that into a biblical course. I just wanted to mention that. So when the allegorical Jesus child was born, the three wise men had to come, follow what? Follow the sun, that golden sun, to bring gold, incense, myrrh, okay? So we are talking about to crown that child, the crown. And we are all born with a crown. And so therefore we are all born of royalty, okay? You are all born of royalty because you were born with a crown. So therefore we are all kings and queens by birthright. But that was taken away from us, okay? So just wanted to kind of expound on that a little bit, right? So when, they speak of, and I'm talking about the so-called powers they be when I use the term they, when they speak of the so-called coronavirus, all right, it's to subconsciously program you and everyone else not to think of gold, not to think about it from the aspect or the perspective of gold. They don't want you to think that, all right? They don't want you to look at the gold. They don't want you to socialize. They don't want you to come together. They don't want that. They don't want people coming together within talking distance of each other, where they're able to have these conversations. All right. Hence, they have implemented social distancing. All that stuff is orchestrated because they know people have come into the knowing, and people are going to keep talking. People are talking about loving, coming together, building, economic building, social building. You see what I'm saying? So they have to say, nah, we are not ready for that quite yet. All right. So let's create this illusion, so to speak. All right. And let's pass into law a social distancing of 6 feet apart so that you cannot connect. All right. You will not feel that corona effect. You did. All right. So that's what's happening. All right. Now, what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about the fiat currency that we are all used to. All right. That promissory note, that debt instrument. Okay. Every note instrument is redeemable by gold, because when they took away the gold standard, all right, or the silver certificates, all right, the deal was, okay, and it's still law. You're able to go into a bank and redeem your promissory notes, your fiat currency, to get real money. By law, you should be able to do that. All right, but every note instrument is redeemable by gold. All right, but they don't want the public, us, to be aware of that. They don't want us to know that we possess gold certificates in our pockets, because your dollars, all right, they are equivalent to gold, dollar for dollar. All right, you're supposed to trade that in to get gold. You feel me? Gold is the money. Gold and silver, those are the money of the gods. Okay? So just so you know, all right? And The corona effect is an open public declaration that your dollars are backed by gold. All right. So that's what the corona effect is essentially all about. It's a declaration, a world declaration, a public announcement, if I may. But it's a declaration, all right, that your dollars that you have is going to be backed by gold. Okay? When you have a gold-backed system or you have gold-backed notes, you are essentially what's called a sovereign. Now, I know the government, the federal, whether it may be the federal government or the local police, whether it may be the city police or the state police, they always want you to make you feel like using the word sovereign is a bad thing. You see what I'm saying? They always play these games. But when you have a currency that's backed by gold or silver, it makes you a sovereign. Okay? Economically, it makes you a sovereign economically. It makes you a sovereign. Even in the Bible, all right? God speaks of his word as sovereign. God is a sovereign God. That's why it says in the Bible, we serve a sovereign God. So there's nothing wrong with the term or the word sovereign. You were born a sovereign because you were born with a crown. But they took away your sovereignty and made you a subject. All right? And I'll get into a little more of that. You might hear some clicking in the back. That's the, the heat, that's coming on because it's gotten a little chilly. All right? But anyway, so just so you know, that's what it means. Now, if we look at the definition of sovereign, like I said, I've put these notes in order here. So you would see, okay, so to see there is nothing wrong with being a sovereign, all right? But they want you to think that there is something wrong with sovereign by attaching the word citizen to it, okay? And once again, let me reiterate, I'm not a sovereign citizen. I have nothing to do with any sovereign citizens. I'm not part of any sovereign citizens. Now, this is me making a public announcement right now, all right? However, I was born a sovereign. I was born with a crown, okay? So with that being said, let's look at the definition of sovereign. Sovereign, what? It says what? Royalty, okay? A supreme ruler, especially a monarch. Now, it doesn't say a sovereign is a monarch. It says a supreme ruler. Let's leave it right here. That's the definition right here. End of story. Period, point blank. Okay? So when you are a sovereign, you are a supreme ruler. You did. Keep that in mind. Now, let us look at number 2. It says what? A former British gold coin worth £1 sterling. So when you had gold coins or you had sterling silver back in those days, it made you a sovereign. So once again, to take away the sovereignty of the people, they had to take away the gold and silver and give them fiat currency, promissory notes, and made them debtors. Okay? They took away their sovereignty. They made them subjects of the crown, okay? Of your own crown. You are the crown. You are the king. You are the queen. You are that supreme ruler. But they took that away from us, all right? But also keep in mind, when you are a sovereign, you have the ability to settle and pay your own way through life. In other words, no more wealthier checks, no more, depending on the system. You see, that's why I keep telling y'all, be careful what you ask for. Because you see, that's what's about to kind of be reintroduced, so to speak. The government, you will no longer be the government's responsibility, okay? Because they had an obligation to the people. When they took away the gold and the silver, which is HR 192. That was an obligation. We took the money from you, all right? So therefore you could discharge things. That whole system is going to be done with. You won't be able to discharge anything, okay? Once they bring back the gold standard, the money is no longer a promissory note. It's actually money in fact, which is gold and silver. So therefore you are able to pay your own way. Brothers and sisters, people of the world, I'm opening up your mind as to what's coming and how you, and that you need to prepare yourself as a supreme ruler, as a sovereign, as a king, as a queen, because you were born with a crown. Okay? You don't need Hollywood to get a star. You were born a star. So once you have money, like I have 21 pieces, actually 22 pieces of silver dollar coins. You feel me? I already got real money. So the point I'm making is, once you are a sovereign, you have the ability to settle and pay your own way through life, opposed to the people, all right, using promissory notes or fiat currency, which keeps you in debt, which keeps you as a slave, all right? Now, the social separation is nothing but them programming you, the people, all right, to get you ready for the fact that you are now a sovereign. So for those of you who don't know or can't see what Trump is doing, you are blind. You have no understanding of that Bible that you read. The trumpet has sounded. Okay, all this stuff was already put in place. That's why it seems like, well, not it seems. That's why it's prophecy being fulfilled. But you're thinking it's coming from a Lord, a magical figure in the sky. No. Those were the lords of the world and the gods of the world that put that together. And then I will kind of like, I would expound on that a little more as I get further into this presentation. All right. So the social distancing, everything that's being done, everything shutting down right now is to prepare you to live your life as a sovereign. Okay. Now, when we speak of the county coroner, for those of you who don't know who or what a coroner is, a coroner deals with the dead or the living. Okay, the dead or the living. All right, your county coroner, and I'm not talking about he is the chief. All right, the chief county coroner. When you write a letter to the coroner's office in his coroner's court, yes, they have a court, and ask him, has anyone died of this coronavirus? You could do that, and you could ask them. And they have a fiduciary responsibility to tell you the truth. All right? Make sure that he or she answers back. Make sure that it's not the coroner's deputy, but make sure it's the medical officer, the boss, the one that deals with the living human beings. All right? If not, you're going to be dealing with the deputy, and the deputy deal with artificial people, the one in all capital letters. All right? And that entity has been reduced to a dead entity. The deputy coroner deals with dead people, family. All right? And the coroner's court deals with living human beings that have passed away from our world. And he has to perform all these examinations to check to see if you are really dead or just asleep. Now, let me explain to you what I'm talking about. For those of you who don't know, every county, every state has a coroner, all right? A coroner deals with either the dead and or the living, okay? As a matter of fact, the county coroner is literally higher than any judge. They could actually arrest a judge. Now, let me give y'all a little secret here, okay? if you do a declaration of life, okay, meaning that you are a living man or woman, and you are able to get a coroner to witness and sign that, okay, then that means none of these fictitious courts could pull you into their court because they cannot have a living man or woman in their courts. That's why they have to pull in the all capital names into their courts because they only deal with dead people. All right? They only deal with dead people. That's why every court has a coroner. But the ones that they have, which is a deputy coroner, deals with the all caps, the dead. All right? The head coroner doesn't deal in the courts because he or she only deals with the living. Now, I may be telling y'all some things y'all don't know or never heard of, but do your own research if you don't believe me, because I don't want you to believe me. All right? I want you to do your own due diligence. All right? So just keep that in mind. But that coroner has to put his name or her name to that dead body opposed to the body of a dead corporate entity. Okay? So it's two deaths. You have the death, which is a corporate death, and you have a natural death, meaning that an actual man or woman dies. Who deals with that? The head coroner. But then you have the deputy coroners that deals with the corporate dead, the dead entities. All right? Just so you know, I just wanted to kind of like really take my time and break that down so you have a true understanding of how these games are being played and how these people are able to pull us into their courts. All right? So just keep that in mind. The coroner could actually, like I said, has more authority than a judge, even have more authority than the governor. That's facts. Because they are the ones that deal with the dead and or the living, whether it may be the corporate dead or the living flesh or the natural dead. All right? Keep that in mind. Okay? So, if your county coroner deals with you as a deputy coroner, he deals with you as a dead entity. Okay? So you have to know these questions to ask. I'm going to ask you again. I'm going to tell you again. If your county coroner deals with you, all right, as a deputy coroner, he or she is dealing with you as a dead entity. All right? When they bring you into any court, they are bringing you in the all caps name. Hence the word county court, because they have a county coroner. Okay? They are bringing the dead person into court, which is the all caps. That's why they have to get you to say your name. As soon as you enter the court, and they say yes, when they ask, is John Doe or John Smith or Jane Smith, you have to say yes. You have to acknowledge that you are dead for them to move forward. They cannot, by law, all right, universal law, ecclesiastic laws, common law, they cannot have a man or a woman in their fictitious courts. Okay? The dead is not supposed to be among the living. I hope y'all are getting this. All right? Now, they also have what's called, let me see. Let's go here to the next slide. And we're going to talk about the parish council. I mean, you know, they also have parishes. Like everybody live in a parish, right? You may see they have a parish, or you see all these terms that they use, family, is word semantics, word play, to keep you a subject, a parish or a parish. That's why people perish for the what? The lack of knowledge. Because you live in a parish, that means you already perished. It's the same word. Okay? It's the same word. A parish is a council of a civil authority found in England. All right? and is the first tier of local government. They are elected corporate bodies, have a variable tax raising powers, and are responsible for areas known as civil parishes, serving a total of 16 million people. So everything that they have in England, remember, they are still living under the crown, all right? Okay? So when you have the parish is synonymous with the word parish. You have the parish council. It's also the parish council. Literally means to die. So when you live in a parish, you're considered dead. Again, it's the word play. All right? It means that you have perished. It's all wordplay once again, changing an E to an A to an E, etc. Either way, they are dealing with dead people. Okay? They are dealing with dead people. And they are nothing but the coroner, whether it be the deputy or not, that's dealing with these dead people. All right? They have to have a deputy coroner in every court, in every county, to deal with those dead people, those cases. All right? Well, that's all you go to court. You have a case number. All right? A file number. Every dead person also have a file number. All right? So just want to open up your mind to a couple of things. All right? Now, they use these administrative processes or rituals and spells. You feel me? That's what they have been using. It's all spell, word spells. Changing it, like I said, an E to an A to an E, an I to an E. All these different variations of the words to cast those spells to trap you into their witchery, so to speak. But now so that was the old matrix. We have stepped into a new matrix where everything has to be exposed. And that's been going on for a while, but it was being done behind the scenes. But now the public is privy to that awareness, to that information. So now everything needs to come out into the light. We are in the golden age, all right? The enlightenment age, the age of Aquarius. And like I told y'all before, once we leave the age of Aquarius, we're going to step into the age of Capricorn, where now we will create a heaven on earth. So all that stuff is already prophesied. They can't stop it. Nobody could stop it. It's either you want to be a part of the heaven that's going to be created or not. And all that has to do with your intentions, how genuine you are, how pure it is, how light your heart is. So if you have bad intentions, you're not going to make it into heaven. I promise you that. And I'm not talking about that magical sky that Jesus could take you to, that the allegorical Jesus could take you to. Okay? Now, it's the duty of the county coroner to deal with human beings, and he or she has to make sure when his deputies are dealing with the corporate entities, he has to make that very clear. All right? Even Donald Trump passed an executive order where there has to be transparency. They could no longer do things under the table without full disclosure, without transparency. All right? That's against the law. So whenever the coroner, he has to make sure that his deputies, when they are dealing with the dead entities, those fake capital all caps entities, they have to let it be known. So you have to be acute and aware of that information to ask the proper questions. You see, when you ask questions, you get answers. The only difference depends on the question that you ask. Because you could ask questions and get answers, but they may not be the answers that you are seeking because you're not asking the right questions. But how can you ask the right questions if you don't know the knowledge, if you haven't been privy to that information? And that's why I'm giving you the information. All right? It is their obligation, acting in their fiduciary capacity as men and women. They have an obligation, all right, to be transparent. They have to let you know. They cannot trick you anymore. The dates for that is done. So they have to let you know if they're dealing with a corporate entity. They have to let that be clear. All right? Okay? Now, here's the thing, right? These people, they have had the entire world convinced for a very, very, very long time that, and that's what I'm telling you, they put all this together. They have the world convinced that the world was born into sin. Once again, if you're paying attention and you have been following my lectures, you'll realize that sin is nothing but a debt. And every debt must be paid, right? But the allegorical Jesus came and already paid that debt. Jesus died for all sins. So we are not supposed to have mortgages, which is a debt pledge. We're not supposed to be paying any forms of debt. Okay, it goes against ecclesiastic laws. And that's facts. But they have convinced the world that you were born into sin, and all this religion, these churches, these pastors and these ministers, most of them know the truth. Some of them don't. A lot of them are truly, truly, truly ignorant. Okay, because they don't know, but they think they know. So they came up with this great grand scheme of putting together the ideology that you were already born a sinner, meaning that you're born into already owing. So they tell you, right, you were born in sin. So that means you were born with a debt. But I'm here to tell you today, you're not a sinner. All your debts have been forgiven. It is up to you to stand up and make that declaration. It's literally up to you. If you want to continue to be a sinner, that's on you. All right? But you can't say that you didn't know. But they have convinced the world that the world needs to confess its sins. Where do you think all that stuff started? It started in the Catholic Church. When they have this little booth, you got to go into a little booth and confess your sins to what? The priest. And then he would say 1 or 2 Hail Marys, and you get to go back and kill people and steal and rob and rape. Okay? It's perversion. But yet still, who are the ones that hold them accountable for their sins? You see, there was no accountability. So they thought they were above the law. All that has changed. And that's changing. And they are going to be held liable. They are going to be held accountable. Because remember, account. What's account? Account is a jocular count, right? That's always a vampire. Account is a vampire, always sucking blood, right? So when they say, okay, well, yeah, we have to hold them accountable, they are already counts. So therefore, they already held accountable. So we are not supposed to hold them accountable. We are supposed to hold them liable. Okay? They got to pay for the lies. Liable. Liability. Okay? Once again, is the trickery. When they say things, oh, well, we have to be accountable. Oh, yes, they are counts. That's what account is, a vampire. You see, all that stuff is telling you it's in the open. But because your ears are not tuned to the words and the spells that they use, it's a different language. It sounds like English. It is English, but in their world, it means something different. So we're going to hold our officers accountable. All they're saying is, we're going to continue to suck your blood and be vampires. But you see, when they're held liable, it's something different. They got to pay. Okay? Keep that in mind. So therefore, the only way for one to be forgiven of their sins, they have to confess. The same way we have to confess. The same way you have to go to the priest and confess. They got to come to us and confess their sins, and we make a determination whether they should be forgiven or not. All right? Just so you know, this is a new age. It's the dawn of man. All right? And that needs to be celebrated, family. It needs to be celebrated in all 4 corners of the world. It needs to be celebrated in all 4 corners of the world. It's our time. It's the dawn of man and woman. All right? And it has to be celebrated. That's why I keep telling you, we are living in such a beautiful time. And it has to be celebrated in each and every corner of the world, north, south, east, and west. All right? And that is what the four-corner rule is about. That is what the four-corner rule is about. Essentially, it means that you are claiming the four corners of the earth, which is another word for a document. If you look at your documents, it's literally on a paper, right? All paper, your documents have four corners, north, south, east, and west. So let us go look at the four-corner rule. Okay, here we go. The four-corner rule. Let me see if I can bring that up some more. Four-corner rule. A rule holding that if a document as what? A contract, a deed, or a will appears on its surface to be complete, no outside evidence may be used to challenge it. Note, the number of states that accept the four-corner rules is in decline. That means they are, they are trying not to, okay, accept the four-corner rule, right? So say that the number of states that accept the four-corner rule is in decline, all right? But the truth of the matter is it's still alive and well. So what does that mean for your documents, right? When you do your documents, you have to practice the four-corner rule because now you are establishing your own court, all right? And anything within that document that's within those four corners, all right, that you have put your stamp. Your stamp could be your fingerprint, all right, with a dollar stamp, which is real money, and you sign it diagonally with your fingerprint, that becomes law. That means they cannot step into that world because you created your own world. You created your four corners. Man, like I said, knowledge is powerful. And if you know how to implement that knowledge, man, I'm telling you, it is such a beautiful thing. All right? Now, so for those of you who get this, you know what, let me just expound on that a little bit more because for some of you, that may need a little bit of explanation. All right? So once again, the four-corner rule, right? Let me just go over that once more. All right? And I'm certainly sure I gave clarity, but I just want to go over it again. All right? The four-corner rule, a rule holding that if a document as a contract, because we're dealing with contracts, right? Deed or will appears on its surface to be complete. No outside evidence may be used to challenge it, all right? And it says, note, the number of states that accept the four-corner rule is in decline. The point I'm making is, if at the surface, your document seems complete, they have no right to go into your documents and search the rest of your documents. That's unlawful. They can't do that. They cannot go through your document and conspire and use your documents against you or not file your documents, all right? Once your documents is within that four-corner rule, you have properly state your jurisdiction, you have created your court, then they have no right or to challenge that, period. And that's facts, okay? Now, let us go back to the gold-back system. And like I told y'all before, the gold-back system will automatically make you economically a sovereign because once again, you will have the ability to pay your own way. You could only pay for things with real money. What we have now is a promissory note. So you have never paid for anything. All right? That's why they had to trick you into a mortgage. All right? With an installment contract. By you not knowing when you gave that deposit, everything was already paid for. But they tricked you into becoming an underwriter, for you to make them an underwriter, and you give them power of attorney and slap an installment contract on that first deposit that you made and extended it for 30 years and put you in debt, made you a sinner. And that is against the law. Okay, they tricked you into doing that. Okay? I hope everything makes sense thus far. All right? Now, like I said, we're living in the age, the dawn of man, everything has to come to light, right? So all the people that has been usurping our sweat equity, which is actually equity in fact, they are being removed. They are being kicked out of office, all right? They have to pay for their sins, but they have to confess their sins. For those that don't want to confess their sins, they have to go and say that they have coronavirus, all right? So just know what's going on, because all of it have to expose. All the vampires, all the parasites, they have to be exposed. So with that being said, if any one of these people that's acting in a fiduciary capacity, they are violating your rights. All right. For one, where there is no full disclosure, okay, where they're trying to trick you, go ahead and expose them. Take it to the public. Let the public know what's going on. All right? Things they have done in the private no longer exist. Expose their public. All right? Lift their skirts up. Let's see what's underneath their dresses. And nowadays, the men wear dresses as well. So I am politically correct. Okay? Even religion. Religion has played a significant fact. And I've just said that, but I'm just going to reiterate, right? Religion has played a significant role as well. All right. Religion have you believing that you are the ones committing the sin. All right. They have convinced us that we were born in sin. They have convinced us we are the ones committing sin and we are the ones that need to be forgiven. But brothers and sisters, remember what a sin is. A sin is debt. Mortgage is a debt. It's a debt pledge. It's a sin. And let me ask you a question. Were you the one who created the mortgage? So therefore, you were not the one who created the sin. And even let's go back to the Bible. How is that a Bible is telling you that you were born in sin? Well, let me ask you a question. Who created the sin? God did. But of course, the religion might tell you, the pastor would say, well, no, it's the devil. Oh, it's Lucifer. Well, who created Lucifer? Who created the devil? God did. So essentially, God created sin. But I'm talking about in a biblical sense. So I'm just showing you the game that was played on people with their minds. Okay? It's the same thing that they did. They put it in the Bible and tell you it's the word of God. Yes, which God? Nobody have ever questioned that. What God or which God are they talking about in the Bible? Because you see, that's not the universal Great Spirit. That's a complete different God. They are talking about man-made gods that created these laws and told you that you were a sinner and that created Lucifer, the devil, to make you think that Lucifer is responsible for the sin. No, they are actually Lucifer and they are actually God. They play both sides of the spectrum and let it work for their own conveniences. Okay? So you didn't create the sin. They did. They created that. They made you the victim. We are victims of sins. We are not sinners, but we became victims of the sin, which is a debt. All right? And even in the Lord's Prayer, all right, they want us to say what? Forgive those who trespass against us. Brothers and sisters, open up your mind, man. The Bible has nothing to do with a sky daddy. It is something, a book that they orchestrated to rule and control the minds of people. And that's why I always use it, because I know what it's about. I know the allegories that it speaks of. I know the hidden symbols and codes and when it should be used and when it's not, it shouldn't be used. You have to know. Read your Bible with understanding and you will become very powerful. I guarantee you that. Okay, so they have convinced people by saying the Lord's Prayer and saying, forgive our trespasses, our trespass, right? Let's forgive those who trespass against us. But what they are running away from is the fact that no one can be forgiven unless they have confessed their sins, unless they have confessed their trespass. All right? They have to confess that, and they haven't done that. They want you to do it, all right? But they themselves haven't done that, all right? Okay. So the sin is the debt that they have put us in, all right? That's the sin, that they have been practicing slavery on us under what's called the Peonage Act. All right, they have been practicing slavery on the people, belongs to the people under the Peonage Act. And let us go look up what that means. All right. Like I said, I know a lot of you slavery by another name. All right, and that's PBS. Okay. I know a lot of you haven't heard a lot of what I'm talking about, and that's why I'm here to give you the information. All right. Let me tell you something real quick about a great, what people may call a leader. Some of you may consider me a leader. I don't take that title. All right, but a great chief or a good chief always want to make sure that his people, all right, are more intelligent than he is. All right, a great chief or a great leader always want to make sure that his people are more equipped than he is. He want to make sure that his people are more financially stable than he is. That's what a great leader does. And that's why I'm bringing that information to you, so that you are able to open up your mind and know how to navigate and stand and protect yourselves and your family, because you have to know exactly what's going on. And that's another reason why I'm so passionate about what I do, because I want to see you successful. I want to see you doing great things. I want to know that you're able to go and stand up and expose these frauds and come out being a victor, because a wrong was done unto you. You became a victim of a sin, which is a debt. All right? So I just wanted to kind of like just drop that in there. All right? So they have literally been practicing slavery for thousands of years, right? Under what's called the Peonage Act. The Peonage Act. So it says slavery versus Peonage Act. Peonage, also called what? Here, right here, family. Debt slavery or debt servitude. Now you see how I'm bringing everything together? Like I tell you, when you are doing your due diligence, it all makes sense. All right? Is a system where an employer compels a worker to pay off a debt with work. All right? That's illegal. Okay? Legally, peonage was outlawed by Congress in 1867. It was outlawed. Once again, let's look at what peonage means. Peonage, also called debt slavery. So the mere fact that they have what's called a debt currency, which is a promise to pay, that's a debt note. You didn't know you were still living in slavery, huh? You were still under the Peonage Act. Trump is trying to get us away from that, but a lot of you can't see that because you're too blind to see. All right? A debt slavery or debt servitude is a system where an employer compels a worker to pay off a debt with work. Legally, peonage was outlawed by Congress in 1867. However, after what? The Reconstruction, many Southern Black men were swept into what? Peonage, though different methods, meaning that a different tactic. They were tricked. And it's always about us. And again, let's not play the semantics with the word black. We know who they are talking about, right? And the system was not completely eradicated until the 1940s, right? That's why they were able to take our land, family. Because if you had this alleged debt, all right, a debt of slavery or a debt of servitude, and you had land and you couldn't pay it off, then they could take your land, family. You dig? Now, check this out. In some cases, employers advance workers some pay or initial transportation costs, and workers willingly agree to work without pay in order to pay it off. So they will give them an advance. You see the trick? Sometimes those debts were quickly paid off and a fair wage worker-employer relationship established. Now, let us proceed a little more and we'll go to the next one, right? Check this out. In many more cases, however, workers became indebted to the planters through sheer what? Cropping loans. Brothers and sisters, go and see how many of your elders, grandmothers and grandfathers and great-grandmothers and great-grandfathers were sharecroppers. Yes, they are talking about the American Indian. They call the black men and women. Okay? Merchants through credit or company stores through living expenses. Workers were often unable to repay the debt and found themselves in a continuous work without pay cycle. Come on, man. But like I said, all that stuff is going to be in the link below and you could do the rest of your research. Let us go. Even in their own statutes and codes, they have that in there, right? 42 U.S. Code, Section 1994, peonage abolished. Let's read. Reading is fundamental. Okay, here we go. The holding of any person to service or labor under the system known as peonage is abolished and forever prohibited in any territory, not some, but any territory or state of the United States. And all acts, laws, resolutions, orders, regulations, or usages of any territory or state which have heretofore established, maintained, or enforced, or by virtue of which any attempt shall hereafter be made to establish, maintain, or enforce, directly or indirectly, the voluntary or involuntary service of labor of any person as or peons, as peons, in liquidation of any debt, obligation, or otherwise are declared null and void. Guess what? Guess what one of those things are? Child support. Okay, that's a form of peonage. They're holding you hostage when you got to go to work to pay off a debt that they created. That's null and void. Okay? Debt obligation, mortgage, that should be null and void. They cannot let you go to work they cannot put you into servitude, whether it may be voluntary or involuntary. Okay? As a form of liquidation for any debt or any obligation, or else is declared null and void. That's a form of slavery under the Peonage Act. Let us proceed. All right. Now what they have done is they have made themselves the middleman between you and the Great Spirit, which is your creator, right? I'm here to tell you today, we don't need the middleman. Okay? We don't need the middleman. Just like they told you, well, the only way to get to God is through what? Jesus Christ. We don't need Jesus. Okay? You are able now to have your own communication. You don't need a middleman anymore. All right? That debt has already been paid. Okay? No, I know a lot of you religious folks is going to be bugging, but the truth is the truth. It is what it is. All right? We don't need that middleman. Now, I'm going to elaborate a little more. When you go into hospitals, let's talk about children being born in hospitals right now, because a lot of people have asked me about those situations. And, I just wanted to touch base because I, made a few promises that I'm going to call a few people, which I'm still going to do that. I've just been busy. But hopefully, just by covering this part right here, some people will find remedy and know how to deal with that situation. Okay? Now, when you go into a hospital and you give birth to a baby as a woman, I'm going to ask you a question. Did you know that most likely you will go into a fondling hospital? For those of you who don't know what a fondling hospital is, a fondling hospital, let's look it up, because I like to show and prove, all right? I'm telling you a lot of things you haven't heard, but I'm going to expose them to you today. All right? A Fondling Hospital. A Fondling Hospital was originally an institution for reception of fondlings, i.e. means, example, children who had been abandoned or exposed and left for the public to find and save. A Fondling Hospital was not necessarily a medical hospital. It was not. So what is it telling you? If it was not a medical hospital, then guess what it is today? They turned it into a medical hospital, but more commonly a children's home, okay? Offering a shelter and education to fondlings. So essentially, okay, what it has been turned into today is that it's a hospital where women go and have their babies, all right? But does not know who the father of that child is. Meaning that she don't know who the father of the child, meaning that the person who gave her the seed. That means that child was/is abandoned, family. That's why they had to go through a process in the late 60s and early 70s to get the fathers away from the home. So that child would be deemed abandoned. Man, woo, family is deep. The rabbit hole is deep. But Chief Kalinago is going deep, deeper and deeper. And we are going to expose all of this. So that's what a Fondling Hospital, you see, at first it wasn't that, right? It was just a home for abandoned children. But it says what? You see, it was not necessarily. But if it means it was not, then what it's safe to say that today it is a medical hospital. All right. So now it's a place where you women go and have your children. All right. But you are saying, unbeknownst to you, that you don't know who the father is, the one who gave you the seed. So therefore, that child is automatically deemed abandoned. All right. Now, how do they solidify that process or the contract? What they do is they present you with a birth certificate that makes your baby a ward of the state. All right? A ward of the state. And a lot of you get mad if a man don't want to sign a birth certificate. You think that, oh, he don't want to take care of his child. No. It's because those things are not natural. So get out of your emotions. Stop being stupid and ignorant for your own selfish reasons. Okay? Now, if the state wishes to take care of that baby, all right, the state don't have to take care of your baby. But if the state wishes to take care of that baby and makes it their obligation, they must have full disclosure, or they must present that to you with full disclosure of that document. But they're not telling you, and they haven't told you what it is. So if there was no full disclosure, that means that contract is null and void. Okay? That contract is null and void because it's a service that they are providing. They are all servicing companies. Okay? Childcare, what? Childcare services. It's always a service. And you have the option to deny the service. If I have my lawn and somebody said, well, hey, sir, you know what? I have a lawn mowing company where this is my card. I have a choice to say, you know what? Well, no, thank you. I don't need your services. I could do it myself. But you see, a lot of you get tricked into wanting those benefits. You feel me? And you get into these contracts not knowing or not having the full and prior informed full closure as to what's in those contracts. And now your children become wards of the state. You feel me? But if they are willing to provide those services to you, then there has to be transparency. There has to be transparency. And not just transparency, they have to do it in sincerity. They have to be sincere rather than any fraudulent means. Okay? For real. So the contract at the Fondling Hospital that has to be, and check this out, those contracts at the Fondling Hospitals, they have to be renewed every 3 years, every 2 years, then every single year thereafter. All right? Now, once again, let me just expound here on some information, because like I said, a few people have asked me about this situation, about them losing their children. Well, here's the thing here, right? Keep in mind, because of the contracts that you signed, those children are not yours. And anytime you use the word children, automatically it puts your son and daughter, or sons and daughters, it makes them words of the state by using that word children. Children, child. Those are words, when you use them, okay, it gives them authority. It gives them, when it kicks in, I wouldn't say in loco parentis, but I think it's another one. I forgot the term that I used before. But essentially what it means is, whenever you say those are your children, now, that word children, that means that you are co-parenting with the state by just using that term children. You see how they trick you? So this is what they are to you. It's either they're your sons and daughters, all right? Because they have no jurisdiction over that word. But however, they have jurisdiction over children. But your sons and daughters, all right? That was given to you by the Great Spirit. All right, family, I'm breaking some things down to you today. All right, definition. Definition of property. Property. Okay, definition of property. Okay. Possession, belongings, okay? A thing or things belonging to someone, possessive possessions collectively. But let us go look at the etymology. I think we might get more of, let's go to the etymology of that word, okay? Etymology of that word, property. Because you see, that's your property, but they don't want you to know that. Because if you use that, they're going to start wanting you to think that you are crazy. Oh, you're insane. What you mean your property? But then in their system, they got them as their property and not children. You see, so y'all better be up on these games. Be up on these games that these people play. I'm putting you guys onto this. Okay, here we go. The etymology of the word property, what it says: nature, quality, later, possession, thing owned, a sense where before, okay, modification, individuality, peculiarity, property, okay, ownership, a property, propriety, quality, literally special character. Basically what it says, one's own special. It means that it's for possession, private possession, private property. That's what your children are. Okay? That's your possession. It came from you. You own it by nature. You see what it says? First word, nature. But they don't want you to call they don't want you to say property. They want you to say children, because children is an unnatural word. It's a hybrid word that they created so that they could take control of your property, family. Okay? So when you have these situations, you have to put in notices, okay, to challenge their jurisdiction and let them prove they have any right to your property, not your children, because they have a right to your children because you signed that contract. Okay? But that's your property. It's yours. Possession. You own it. It came from you. When you and that father laid down to have that baby, they wasn't there. Okay? When you, the mother, pushed it out, it came from you. That's your flesh, that's your blood. It's your property, it's your sole possession. And they have no authority over it unless you give it to them. And any contract that was created where they were able to take your property in the form of children without full disclosure, you not knowing exactly what it meant, that is null and void. Okay? That is null and void. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. Let me see where we at now. Okay, we just went through funding hospitals, and we're gonna get into that next. Okay, so we spoke about the funding hospitals, right? So we're gonna talk about kind of like jump to the left a little bit. We're gonna talk about the Salvation Army, right? What do you think Salvation Army means? I mean, think of itself, right? It's a salvage operation, and it's done by what? An armed force. Why do you think, have you ever thought about it? Why do you think they have the word army behind it? What's an army? Why is there a Salvation Army? You just think it's a place where you go take clothes, and no, it's an army. Everything is such in plain sight. But again, when you're not aware, you're totally oblivious as to what's happening around you, then you are living in a world where you're lost. Okay? So the Salvation Army means it's a salvage operation, and it's done by the armed forces. The entire world is a commercial activity. All right? Keep that in mind. The entire world is a commercial activity, and there must be full disclosure moving forward. All right? There has to be transparency. All right? They have to open up their books. Let them show you their details. If you're going to do a Freedom of Information Act, they cannot prevent you from doing that. They have to show you what's underneath their dresses. Okay? No longer you want to deal with men that's wearing panties and you're thinking it's a man. When you lift up their dresses, they have panties on. That's deception, making you think that it's a woman when it's actually a man, or it's actually a man when it's actually a woman. That's a form of deception. There has to be full disclosure. All right? There has to be full disclosure. Now, if they refuse to show you their books, that means they're not in honor. That means they are corrupt. That means they are defrauding you. And that's how you know. Okay? Now, the pernicious contract that bind man into slavery was all orchestrated by the Vatican Church and others who went all over the world even before 1492, the Christopher Columbus era. We are talking about way before the 9th century, the 10th century. They went all over the world and treated with chieftains, all right, and asked them to treaty with them where they can trick the populations. And that one of those was the Treaty of Verona. Okay, and we're gonna go into that a little bit. We're gonna kind of cover that, break that down just a little. Okay, all right. The secret Treaty of Verona. In the secret 1822 Treaty of Verona between Australia, France, Prussia, and Russia, the Jesuits agreed to smash the U.S. Constitution and suppress the freedom of the U.S. All right? He is one of 3 United States senators known to be of native descent. So we got to take a pause here, and I got to break a few things down to you guys. All right? So we are at a point where a lot of our people have come to the knowledge that we are the original people, okay? And I've broken this down before. Now, there were chiefs and chieftainesses, okay, who played a part, yes, all right, male chief and female chiefs, all right, who played an essential role, all right, a very essential role in the enslavement of people. Because when these people came, all right, this group of people that came together and said, okay, you know, we're gonna enslaved the entire world. They went to all these chief and chieftainess, right? And they signed treaties. They signed treaties. So family, you see, you have to know the history. You have to know what went on. And let us just kind of talk about, I'm going to touch on that very briefly. Us here in the Americas, we the original people, we were living here in clans, in families, not even clans, in families. Because at that time, there were no clans. We were just living in families, in nature, right? But once the infiltration came, I'm going to tell y'all again, and whether y'all want to be in denial, that's on you. Okay? The people who came here, they were people who looked just like us. All right? They were the ones who we signed those treaties with. Our chiefs, our male chiefs and our female chiefs signed treaties with them. So this happened way before 1492, family. Way before 1492. So you put 2 and 2 together, because I don't want nobody to say I'm picking on any particular group. I'm just here to bring the information. If you don't like the truth, man, it is what it is. But it has to come to light. There were people who looked just like us who came here and we signed treaties with. But because they got greedy, they wanted to fly their flags. They wanted to take over our land. They started fighting our people for what's ours. They started marrying our women. They started raping our women. And hence, because of all the wars, a lot of our male chief and female chief sold out. That's facts. All right? How do you think the civilized tribes was created? It was created by those sellouts. You feel me? Those sellouts. And I'm going to tell y'all something, and once again, I don't want y'all to think I'm picking on anybody. Okay? When you speak of the titles of Bey and El, all right, the El and the Beys, those are titles that were synonymous with the 5 civilized tribes. They were titles that were used then because they were the ones who created the 5 civilized tribes and got rid of the so-called savages, the ones who didn't want to be civilized. All right? And what they did was, when they passed constitutions, all right, in the 13th Amendment, when they took over our land, they said what? You know what? No title of nobility. Go, if you don't believe me, go do the research yourself. The original 13th Amendment, it had a clause in there saying, no titles of nobility can ever be held in the United States. You feel me? Because they didn't want anybody else to be above them. But the Pale Man tricked them and said, now forget that. When the Pale Man took over, the Pale Man took that out of the original 13th Amendment. But like I said, I don't want people to think I'm picking on them because they don't want to hear the truth. They want to keep pushing the lies to our people. But I'm just here to drop the information. So they came and they fought us. All right. And like I said, it was supposed to be when after all the dust was settled and they say, man, listen, all these wars and killing, we got to come to a truce. We got to sign some more treaties. So the deal was, let us give these indigenous people, they're gonna continue to operate through the Iroquois Confederacy. All right, good. The Pale Man said, okay, you know what? We're gonna do the United States. That's ours. We have certain territories. That's ours. All right. And the other melanated people that came from the other side, they say, you know what? We're gonna run the republic. And that was supposed to be how this whole system was supposed to run. All right. But then the Pale Man tricked everybody and said, nah, we want the whole call. We want everything. All right. And that's how the United States became a power. All right. So I just wanted to break that down with y'all. So just so y'all know. Okay. And once again, if y'all don't believe me, let me just, because I like to show and prove. All right. I like to show and prove. Let's go look at the etymology of Bey. And like I said, I'm not here picking on anybody. Okay. I just want to drop the truth and let the truth be the truth. Okay, etymology of Bey. Governor of what? A Turkish district. 1590s from Turkish Bey, a title of honor in princely families. It had nothing to do with us indigenous people here on this land. Is when they came here, all right? And if you realize that certain part of certain documents with Thomas Jefferson, where they had to work it out that yes, Beys and Alis and those titles, they could have been used because they were the ones who helped set up the 5 civilized tribes. Why do you think Noble Drew Ali had to claim Cherokee? All right, because they were one of the people, all right, that helped. They were part of that whole establishment. It was a continued journey that was picked up to create the 5 civilized tribes. All right, but anyway, I'm not going to beat a dead horse on that because, like I said, I'm not here to create any enemies. I'm just here to drop the truth, and that's all I'm doing. All right, that's all I'm doing. So get out of y'all feelings, all right, and it is what it is. Okay, it just is what it is, man. Where we at right now. So the Treaty of Verona spoke of that already. All right, so yes, and a lot of our chiefs, like I said, male chiefs and female chiefs, they played a role in the position that we're in here today. Just so y'all know, okay, the White House, okay, was built. The White House was built by not by Caucasians. All right, the White House, those structures were built by those so-called nobles that came here, all right, to establish their governments, all right? It was built by them. So when they tell you that the White House was built by so-called black people, know who they're talking about, all right? That wasn't built by the Indians. Yes, you may have had some of them, but it wasn't built by the Indians, no. It was built for them so that they could use, that could be where their, how would I put it? Their place to deal with their commercial activities or their commercial business. Okay? All right, let's proceed. Now, what these people do. So we were talking about, the secret treaty of Verona and how these people, what they did. Okay, so you have to know all these things. And yes, a lot of our male chiefs and female chiefs played a role in that. Okay, and literally back in those days when we had all this invasion, all right, the male chiefs and the female chiefs, they took possessions of all the natural resources, and it was for the benefit of the people. All right, but at some point when the greed kicked in, it became not even a necessity or essentially for the people. It became something as security to hold it against the people. All right. In other words, you're going to do such and such. If you don't, then you're not going to get water anymore. You're not going to get food anymore. You see what I'm saying? So family, just know what happened, man. All right. Like I said, this thing is deep. All right. So all these people literally, man, they just suck the life out of the people, and they have used their banking system. All right, fictitious entities and even fictitious words they have used as a form of conveyance in their language, all right, which is literally unlawful in the eyes of the Army, the Navy, and as well as the Air Force, all right? The Navy basically means that the Navy literally is synonymous with the naval, all right? The Navy is synonymous with the naval. I just want you to know that Navy, naval is the same root word, all right? And of course, we know what the naval is. It's attached to what? The Navy operations or the naval operations, and they have been with us since the day of birth. What a lot of people don't know is, that you could use the Navy to arrest a lot of these people that are committing fraud and genocide on the people. A lot of people don't know that. All we have to do is come together, do a petition, bring a claim against them, and take it to the Navy. The Navy got their own court. You see, I'm opening up your minds to a lot of things. Keep that in mind. All right. So now is your chance. Now is our chance. All right. Time to make our claims. You have to. Okay. Now, so another reason why they have all these things on lockdown, right? And they're saying it's because of the coronavirus, is because of all these contracts. Remember, contracts have a time life. They have a life. Contracts have a life. All right. And for some reason, all these contracts have to be renewed because these contracts were done fraudulently. There was no full disclosure. And if there was no full disclosure, it means that these contracts are null and void. All right. All claims of governments, all contracts, like, for instance, example, the pharmaceutical industry, which is another word for makers of poison and portions. They make these portions and inject them in the body of living men and women. All right. They now form, it's the new form of witchcraft. All right. When they're using their injections to put their portions in your body. Basically, that's what these pharmaceutical companies are. All right. They want new contracts. All right. They want to renew these agreements so that they could continue to push, these dangerous, toxic chemicals into our bodies. So what they want to renew their licenses. That's what they want to do. They want to renew their licenses. That's what a license is. Now let us go look at the definition of a license. Okay? The definition of a license. A license is what? The meaning of a license. What? A permit from an authority to own or use something. You see what I'm saying? So why do I need a permit, which is the same thing as a license? You see, they will not tell you what's synonymous, words that are synonymous. And before, you see where they have similar right here? They used to have synonymous back in the days, but they realize people are getting too hip to that. So they want to put similar. Oh, well, it's kind of like, but not the same. It's the same thing. So a license, and words that are synonymous to license is what? Permit, certificate, document, documentation, authorization. All right. Why do I need a permit or a license from you to do something that's given to me by the Creator? You see what I'm saying? So literally, essentially, what I'm saying is that a license is literally a license give you permission to break the law, which without you will not be breaking a law. I'm going to repeat myself because I know that went over a lot of people's head. All right? Because the majority of the things that they say you need a license for, you don't need a license for it because it's already law. Typical example, you don't need a license to travel, but they tell you need a license. So literally, when you go get a license, you are breaking the law, okay, by getting a license because you don't need one to travel. But because you are getting one, that gives them the right to stop you, give you tickets, all type of stuff, because now you are breaking the law. You see how they tricked you into doing that? And like I said, it may seem a little bit confusing, but just listen a little slower because I know I'm speaking a little fast. All right? So a license is a permit from an authority to own or use something, do a particular thing, or carry on a trade, especially in alcohol, beverage, a gun license, etc. They have all these examples, right? But things that you have a right to do, you don't need a license for, because once you get a license, that means automatically you have put yourself in a position to break in the law because you don't need a license. You did, and I hope that makes sense. All right? Now, these doctors and these physicians, all right, they are not supposed to prescribe anything because their contracts right now are null and void. Okay? So they're not supposed to prescribe anything, not even a drink of water to you if you challenge that. Okay? If you challenge that, they have no contracts right now where they could prescribe anything to you. So like I told you before, we have a chance of starting over. Keep that in mind. As a sovereign, okay, you have to carry your own weight. You cannot serve two gods at one time, all right? People were programmed not to be aware of these things, family. That's why they have their schooling system. That's why they have the churches to brainwash people. They have all these institutions to brainwash people. Now, you may ask yourself, well, man, how was all this possible? Well, they did it with the help, of course, of treating with those male chiefs and female chiefs, because people were in families, and in Europe, they were in tribes, and here in the Americas, we were in clans, all right? All over the world, people was tribal, or they were in clans, okay? And they made deals with those male chief and female chiefs. But the main culprits who actually initiated, all right, the enslavement of the world was the Committee of 300, all right? What they did was they made your gods. They were the ones who made your gods for you to worship, all right? They engineered the movies that you see today, the soap operas that you see today, the statuses and codes and legislations. They are the ones who are still putting that in place. So let us go to Amazon real quick, shall we? All right, there's a book called Conspirators Hierarchy, the story of the Committee of the 300. So I'm letting you know I'm not making these things up. Okay, let's read. It says what? Right here. Can you imagine an all-powerful group that knows no national boundaries? They are above the law. At least that's what they tell themselves. But the only law that I know they're not above is universal laws, all right? Above the laws of all countries. One that controls every aspect of politics, religion, commerce, and industry, banking, insurance, mining, the drug trade, the petroleum industry. A group answerable to no one but its members. To the vast majority of us, such a group would appear to be beyond the realms of possibilities and capabilities of any given organization. If that is what you believe, then you are in the majority. The conception of a secret elite group exercising control of every aspect of our lives is beyond our comprehension. Americans are prone to say it can't happen here. Our Constitution forbids it. That there is such a body called the Committee of 300. It is grammatically told in this book, when most people attempt to address our problems, they speak or write about this book tells precisely who they are and what they have planned for our future. How they have been at war with the American nation for 50 years, a war which are on the brink of losing, what methods they use, and exactly how they have brainwashed us. All right, if you're puzzled and perplexed as to why things are occurring that we as a nation don't like yet seem to powerless to prevent, why is it that the United States always seem to back the wrong horse? Why the United States is in a depression from which it will not emerge, why our former social and moral values have been turned outside and seemingly buried. If you are confused by the many conspiracy theories, the conspirators hierarchy, the Committee of 300, will clearly establish that these conditions have been deliberately created to bring us to our knees. All right? So, just want you to know who is responsible for that, right? But we are living in a new age, and they could no longer hide. We have to expose them, all right? Pardon me. Okay, these people are extremely rich. And I'm not rich. I mean, they're extremely wealthy. Literally, the majority of them have so many zeros next to their name in their bank accounts. I'm talking about up to 62 to 64 to 200 zeros. Can you imagine how much money that is? Man, let me hold up. Let me just ask Google real quick. How many zeros in a trillion? All right, just to give y'all an idea. Okay, just to give you an idea, because I want this to really sink in, so that it's things that we can't even fathom. All right, that's how wealthy these people are. That's why they're able to buy almost anything and anyone. Okay, but all that's coming to an end. Okay, because they were able to just print that fake money at will. That was the problem. Come on, man. How many zeros in a trillion?
Trillion has 12 zeros.
Family, look, a trillion has 12 zeros. Can you imagine having money in the likes of 64 zeros behind it, or even 200 zeros behind it? Well, let me tell you something. Those people in these communities, they have those numbers. Okay? They have those numbers. And I'm talking about people like Tony Blair, people in the elites in Russia, the Middle Eastern countries such as Iran. They have those zeros behind their names in their bank accounts. Okay? Oh, man, y'all think this is a game. All right? They they are all one group playing the same game on all of us. All right? That's what they're doing. They harvest people through the county courts. That's what they do. They usurp your energy. They pull you through the county courts, all right? And they take your sweat, equity, and they turn it into a commercial instrument. And that's how they enslave you. And that's how they make their money, all right? The world is not what we think it is, brothers and sisters. It's not. It's not what you think it is. You have to literally, everything that you have learned, you have to relearn. You have to reprogram yourself, because they have engineered this plan to make you confess your sins, all right? So they could be in a position to forgive you if they so choose, but then at the same time, put themselves in a position where they don't have to pay for their sins. They made themselves God. That's why they have in their Bible, God is without sin, because they made themselves God. They gave us the Bibles. Okay? But I want you to know that forgiveness is a choice. Okay? Forgiveness is a choice. It's like a woman who has been married for so many years and she found out that her husband cheated, and she has a choice to forgive him or not. If she forgives him, then they could go back to being married, go back to that contract that they signed. But if she decides not to forgive him, all right, then that contract is null and void. So it's up to us. If we choose to forgive them, all right, they have to come forth and confess their sins. Until then, all, and I repeat myself, all those contracts are null and void. They cannot hold you accountable, okay? Or they cannot hold you liable. They are the ones who have to be held liable, okay? So I just wanted to share that with you, and just know that they are using the corona effect as a means to ask for forgiveness. They want to make amends, all right? They want to make amends and say, okay, you know what? We have abused you for too long. We're going to bring back the real so-called God's money, so to speak. All right? Give you back the gold and silver. You will become economically a sovereign. All right? So just so you know. But that's just their way of saying, man, forgive us for all the wars. All right? All the lies, all the propaganda. Okay? We told you that the devil came to kill, steal, and destroy. But what we didn't tell you was we created the devil. They didn't tell the people that. All right? So now they want the forgiveness of the people. And they did all that just so that they could get filthy rich off our sweat equity. If we don't forgive them, that means those contracts are null and void, like I said. All right? And that is the power that we have, ladies and gentlemen. That is the power that we have. All right? All it takes is to write one letter to anyone, all right, who made a claim on you, because the pen is mightier than the sword. I hope you enjoyed the build. I haven't, put up my Cash App in many videos for a while. I haven't done that for a reason, because I realize, the Negro mentality is a warped mentality. But I put a lot of effort and research into, of course, all the lectures that I bring. So I will put my Cash App in the link. If you so choose, you're not obligated. If you feel like this video gave you some information that could help you out, and you feel you want to show some love, by all means, support the Cash App. Peace and love to each and every one of you. And once again, like I said, I have no grievances with anyone, especially the Moors. I know, because I mentioned that, I'm just here telling the truth. And that's just what it is. All right? It is what it is. But I just had to say that. All right? I love you guys. Peace be upon you. Go ahead and share. Make sure y'all share the video. All right? Share the information. Make these things go viral, man, because people have to know. All right? Peace and love.